Hi guys, welcome back to the Leeds lobby. It's good to be back on this Sunday evening. I think it's the 22nd.
Yeah, 24th.
24th of August. I've lost 2 days somewhere. I think it's important to start date stamping these because obviously we're having conversations regarding transfers and things are moving on. Well, I suppose I'm going to say quickly, but they're actually moving on quite slowly. What do you think, Dan?
I don't think they are. I think that we'll have a striker and a left back in by Sunday.
Next week.
Prediction. This week, Sunday. Yes, Sunday, not tomorrow. Sunday, next Sunday, is my prediction. Purely because it is Sunday today. Yeah, next Sunday. Purely because I think it only went slow because we were in Australia and there was no one there to. Marsh wasn't there to greet the players. They didn't want to get anyone in the door and not have them training until like a week later. I think that they want to get a striker and a left back in the door now before the Cagliari game. And so I think that's what it is. This
is kind of a quick update. I mean, people are sick. I think some people are getting sick to death of content providers at Leeds United talking about Kalimuendo. There is movement.
And
there is
CDK as well.
Information coming out about the possibility of Leeds moving for CDK and him actually coming to Leeds and the knock-on effect to the Kalimuendo deal. Other strikers that we might be into. There is information out there that is coming, and there is movement taking place behind the scenes. But obviously a lot of this is happening very, very slowly. So it's just one of those updates. But before we get any further, before we get into the main body of the content, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because it would be great to have you on board and registering yourself as a subscriber and hitting that notification button. So what's happening with the CDK deal right now?
With the CDK, this valuation has been significantly lower to 35 million euros. Leeds' initial offer was 45 million euros. So it's been they're increasingly lowering it, and Milan still cannot meet the valuation. He was left out of Bruges' first league game, as reports Fabrizio Romano, and that Milan are still pushing for a move, but it's looking, it's starting to be a bit of a toss in the air. Toss of a coin if it comes to Leeds or Milan now.
I think Milan seem to have got to a point where they've now put a time threshold on this and said, look, if this deal isn't done within the next... I think Milan have said if it's not done within the next 24 hours, they're going to begin looking elsewhere.
They've already started looking elsewhere. Fabrizio Romano, I think, or there was a journalist who says they've started looking at other options.
That's really interesting. I think that it's evident that Milan are now not going to increase their offer. Bruges have rejected the offer, or certainly not accepted the offer. They'd love to see CDK go to a club of his choice, but unfortunately it would mean Bruges taking a reduction in what they're valuing the player at. And I think whereas Leeds United did that with Rafinha, I mean, CDK's a younger player.
Yeah.
He's not been anywhere but Bruges, so it's not like with Leeds with Rafinha, we brought him in and we always knew he was going to be a stepping stone. I mean, ultimately, anywhere where he goes next is likely to be a stepping stone because of his age. But I actually think there's a possibility that Bruges might stick their stake in the ground here. But the question is here, I think now it's a CDK against Bruges. Who's going to blink first? Because if Bruges turn around and say, okay, well, we'll let you stay at Bruges for another year, does CDK actually want a way enough to say, okay, I'm quite prepared now to move to the Premiership and go and play in Leeds United? Obviously, there are Dutch players in and around the Premiership who we will be talking to, and he will know the Premiership is the most watched league in the world. It could be a stepping stone for him. But
I think you're always saying.
But by the same token, I do also think there's a possibility if Charles de Ketelaere turns around to Bruges and says, well, okay, I'll stay then, that they may end up selling to Milan because the difference between Bruges' valuation of him and Milan's is narrowing, but only because I think Bruges are moving and Milan aren't. I mean, if Leeds are coming in and offering more money, surely that should be increasing the value. It's counterintuitive to think that they're moving that valuation down with Leeds coming in. So it's really interesting, but I do think that we are coming to a point now where all three clubs are going to come to some sort of conclusion, and Leeds are going to be invited in now to talk to Charles de Ketelaere to actually talk about personal terms to see if we can agree.
That's what has been thrown around, that Leeds, that he has until tonight, like the end of today. Milan have until the end of today to agree a fee. Otherwise, Leeds are given a free run to speak to CDK.
I think it's actually significant that Maldini's gone over there as well. I mean, Maldini's gone over there with all trumpets blazing, and noise from Milan is there is going to seal the deal. I think the fact that he's actually gone back to Italy without sealing the deal suggests to me that it looks more likely that he could end up a Leeds United player.
Yeah.
I'm probably more confident than what I was 2 or 3 days ago, in actual fact, that this guy could end up at Leeds United. We do need a proven goal scorer, and this is somebody that I think could treble his value in a couple of years' time. Somebody that'd be a very good signing for Leeds United if we can get him, which is why we're still in for him. The reason why I don't think we stepped out of that situation is because there's still a chance that we can sign him.
Yeah, I liken it to earlier on in the window with Sven Botman. It was Milan, it was either AC Milan or Inter Milan that wanted him, but then Newcastle came in, and Inter Milan, he wanted to go to Inter Milan, Sven Botman, but they couldn't meet his valuation, so they told him he had to go to Newcastle, and he went to Newcastle. He didn't want to go to Newcastle, he preferred Inter Milan, but Newcastle were offering the cash, so he had to go to Newcastle.
So who would you say, if assuming that we get to a point where Bruges and Bruges and AC Milan are able to agree a fee, this is where Leeds were with Barcelona not quite there, but assuming that the AC Milan and Barcelona are able to actually agree a fee, and then that causes Leeds United to step away. We know that CDK will agree terms with them. That's not the obstacle. Leeds are in fact able to financially do that. It's just a matter of waiting till Milan formally step away before we can do the raid. And then obviously there may be other people that we have to beat off. But let's just say, for example, that happens. Who do we go in for next?
If CDK is agreed, there are a few options. Kalimuendo is one of them. But quickly, before we discuss the other striking options, I personally think that Milan are waiting for Leeds to take their hand off of the trigger with CDK and go for another option, and Leeds are waiting for Milan to take their hand off of the button. It's who's going to press the button first, who's going to pull out and negotiations first, because neither of them, it's like a game of chicken. Neither of them want to wait until the end of the window and risk not getting any striker in, but neither of them want to pull out now when they still have a chance.
The window ends in September.
The window ends at the end of August.
I think it's the end of September.
It's the end of August. End of August.
Again, if you know the answer to that, put that in the.
I know the answer.
Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure Leeds could sign players.
Kalimuendo.
Well, obviously, if we have first games in August, then
we can sign free agents.
The season, okay, it's the beginning of September, but the season could have started, so we don't have to necessarily sign him before the start of the season. So Kalimuendo. So what's the deal on? Where's the deal on Kalimuendo? Because we're not the only club in for him, are we?
No, Newcastle are in for him. There's a few. I think it's us and Newcastle are the main sort of options. But Kalimuendo, the new PSG manager. Obviously, they sacked Pochettino, brought in. I think it was the LOSC manager, LOSC Lille. They brought in the Lille manager, and he's done an interview and said he knows that there's clubs looking at Kalimuendo. He's pleased with how he's done in pre-season and how we did on loan last season. But I quote. After he says these things, he says, but then there is the transfer market. So he's obviously, if a fee would come in for Kalimuendo that would meet their valuation or would exceed their valuation that they think would be a good fee for him, they will accept. Because then there is the transfer market.
It seems to me that we've done the groundwork that we need to do on the Kalimuendo deal in case we don't get CDK. Yeah. And it seems to me that the second we don't get CDK, that Kalimuendo deal will get done quite quickly. And having had a look at him and having seen the way that he's played, even in pre-season, he does look like a really, really good player.
Kalimuendo isn't 100% the next one in, because reports suggesting in Austria and Germany that Marsch wants the ex-Salzburg striker Berisha. I think it's Marin Berisha. And he played under Marsch at Salzburg. He played 56 games and he had 35 goal contributions, 22 goals, 13 assists.
It's a great return.
It is a good return, and he's been managed by Marsch. It's obviously another one that's been churned out of that Red Bull system. It's quite a new one, really. So what do you make of that?
I think, to be honest with you, it seems like there's also the Terrier link as well. I do think it looks like Leeds have been making movements within the transfer market. It seems like we have 2 or 3 possible contingencies if we don't sign Charles de Ketelaere. It's just that Charles de Ketelaere is head and shoulders, and you've got to be in it to win it. We are still in there. The other interesting thing is this actually, as a narrative, shows that the club that is just survived relegation in the Premiership is able to, pound for pound, outpunch the top Italian club, who's actually won the Italian league this year. And that's because of the TV money. Leeds will have taken, in terms of revenue, somewhere in the region of £120 million just on that kind of TV money. Leeds obviously were a popular club to watch, therefore will have had a bigger share in that TV money than we should have expected to have it where we finished in the league. But from the Italians, they've probably taken around about 100 million, having won that, including their Champions League money. And that just gives Leeds that little bit more clout. And players, obviously, that we've sold, we've brought good revenue in. We're able to outpunch financially one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And that just talks about and tells us about the power of the Premier League in terms of the revenue that we get in and the financial clout of these clubs.
Yeah. The next rumour for a striker, there's 2 more rumours in terms of strikers, and then we've got a few left-back ones and a couple of outgoings. But the next striker rumour is the L'Equipe, which is, if I am right, it's a French report, a French outlet.
L'Equipe
Is reporting that Leeds United are battling West Ham for Martin Terrier.
Yeah, and again, we've got deeper pockets than West Ham at this moment in time. And again, we're battling out against really for contingency plans, I think, because ultimately, I think there'll be some. You were right in saying about the big movement this week. There will be a list that Orta's in with. And he will begin to progress on all fronts to find out who's going to be the next Leeds striker. It'll be almost like a reality TV contest, almost. Because once we are either in for De Ketelaere or we're not, we'll know whether we're going to be progressing on some other targets. Interesting that there are 2 or 3. Castellanos is obviously staying within the City group.
Yeah, I think he's making a move. I think that he's going to a Belgian club, I think.
Is it not?
No, it's Girona.
It's within the City group.
Yeah.
So he's staying within that network. So he's not going to come to Leeds United. He again looks a prospect, but Leeds are in for 2 or 3 really, really good strikers. I think that's what we're missing. We're missing a striker. I think we've got the midfield sorted out by the look of it for me, both defensive and attacking midfield. I do think we'll create chances. I think what we're missing is somebody on the end of those chances and a left back just to shore that up. Yeah. So where are we on the left back front, Dan?
On the left back front, it looks like possibly it could be Josh Tymon from Stoke. We were in for Tagliafico from Ajax, but obviously he's made his move now, so it looks like that one won't be happening. But Josh Tymon from Stoke, 44 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 48 successful dribbles. It's the 48 successful dribbles. He's averaging more than a dribble per game, which is quite. It's an okay stat because obviously if you're thinking about Marsh's system, most of the width is going to come from the fullback, so they're going to have to dribble through the opposition's width to get to the byline and cross it in because none of our width is going to come from wingers anymore. Really,
might be a good stat for us to have.
Yeah, so that's why Christensen is going to be so important because he's a winger. He's a winger who's also a fullback. He plays as sort of a hybrid. That's what Josh Tymon looks to be.
Who else are we on the list for?
Not many. I always thought Maxwell Cornet would be a steal at probably about 15 to 20 million, but I think that he's more likely to go Forest.
Okay, that's great. So thanks ever so much for tuning in. Not really a lot more going on. I think we'll probably be doing hopefully some kind of update by midweek when we get more white smoke or news coming from Bruges with regards to CDK. There will be some news this week. I am dead certain of that. Obviously, it's what everybody's talking about at the minute, probably to the point where everybody feels like putting the finger in the eye and swirling the brain around because we're all sick of hearing about Charles de Ketelaere. Yeah. Be good to either land him and be able to celebrate that, then all the best bits videos will come out, or move on and start looking at who Leeds will be signing. But either way, I think we'll be much, much clearer, probably by the end of Tuesday night at the very, very latest, possibly even going into tomorrow afternoon. So apart from that, thanks ever so much for watching. Please do make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you're also subscribed and that you click that notification button, and we will speak to you and we'll see you in the coming days. Bye-bye now.
Bye.